Hey everybody, welcome to the National Championship edition of UGA Sports Live. I'm your host, Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and, of course, Jim Donnan, the former Georgia Hall of Fame coach. Well, he's a former Georgia coach. He's still in the Hall of Fame. They haven't kicked him out yet. They haven't. They don't know what I know, but Coach Donnan's with us, and we're very excited to have him on the show. It means a lot to us, and we're excited that you've joined us. Sorry we couldn't have a show last week. I was kind of sick when I came back from Indianapolis, so. And we had a lot to cover, a lot of news going on. So we were really slammed last week. But yes, this is the first show we've had since we got back with Georgia having national title following that 2021 team. So Georgia, the 2021 national championship team. A great parade the other day. Dayne Young was out there at the parade and procession. Coach, I think you would be interested to know that Georgia is not allowed to call that a parade because for a parade, you need to have a permit. So Georgia had a national title procession down Lumpkin Street through the dog walk and into the stadium. It was a great celebration. Absolute full stadium of people celebrating. Fanatics has done record numbers in merchandise sales from the Georgia fans. Georgia fans bought more than 24 hours than Alabama fans bought last year in 30 days. So an absolute craziness in Athens right now. It's Titletown, USA. And, Coach, I got to go straight to you. I mean, you told us before it was in the summer, you said this team can win the title. This is the most talented team. I don't say you'd ever seen, but it was definitely one top, most talented teams you'd seen at Georgia. And you called it. You've been telling us for years that Kirby Smart was the right guy. You told us that this quarterback could get it done. You told us this defense could get it done. You told us this team could get it done. Sure as hell they did it. So give us your thoughts, Coach.
Yeah, I really felt like this summer we had some players that are going to be playing that didn't play too. I mean, like Radledge and Pickens. Earlier and, just throughout the season, a lot of different things happened. But, I always think about that one quote that really kind of signifies this team. Adversity causes some teams to break, others to break records. And I felt like this team just did what it had to do all year long. And I told Roddy this, and I said this on several shows that people had me on after this championship game. It's kind of like you having a teacher give you a test in high school that you were a very good student and you didn't do as good. So they gave it to you. He gave it to you again, hoping you could, get a better grade and average out for the semester. And also took off some of the hardest part of it so you can make sure you made it. And so that's what happened with us. We got a redo on Alabama. They took Mechie out of the game. And our defense just really pressured Bryce Young's all night. Offensively, the only thing I would say is I was very disappointed. I know Kirby said it at halftime, but we couldn't get out of our own way there in the first half with ridiculous penalties and just poor management on first down, lost yardage plays, which if you're a good football team like we are, you don't lose yardage on first down. I mean, even on passes, you get rid of the ball. But I got to give Christian Harris a lot of credit. I don't know what he scouted us or what coach told him, but he ran through some really significant gaps on us and caused us problems with lost yardage plays on first down. And also thought George was in the witness protection program no more than we used him. He only played 18 plays, but there has to be a reason for that. I don't know. I haven't asked anybody. And Bowers, too, we couldn't get the ball to him. But the best part about it would have been a tragedy if we'd have lost this game because we got a better team than they do. I mean, they didn't have Mechie, didn't have Williams, but they also had pretty much the same team they've been playing with all year in a lot of positions. So man-to-man, I felt good about it. So the reality is we're the national champions and very well deserved and played with so much poise in the fourth quarter when the band was playing, when you got to have it, when the champions step up. Our guys did it. They made plays after play after play. A.D. Mitchell, William Poole. Here's a guy that played more plays in the last 3 games than he's played in his whole career. And just did a lot for Georgia and really improved and worked his butt off in practice and listened to Muschamp and Kirby and Adai and got better technique and just really had an all-star game in that championship game as compared to his first tilt against them. So a lot of individuals we can mention throughout, and hopefully we'll have some more questions. But I would just take this takeaway from us is that there is no greater reward than team victory. And this was a team. You could see it after the game, the way they reveled with each other, the way all of them came up to Stetson, the way they hugged their coaches. I mean, there's nothing better. There's no better feeling than a team victory. Not necessarily just a national championship, a conference championship or what, but to be around those guys all year long and not being hokey about it. I'm just telling you.
No.
Something you can take with you the rest of your life is the fact that everybody had a role in that championship, and our fans should revel in it too. I mean, regardless of how long they've had to wait, you got to take what you can, because as I've said to some people around here, you don't get many shots at it. I mean, you never know when you're going to get that next shot, and you better make it work. And we certainly did that. So, going to be some different coaches here, some players maybe be leaving, but the future's bright. I mean, the future right now for Georgia is a meteor. It's a comet coming around the country from Athens, Georgia. It's a blast that's engulfing the whole NCAA network of teams and everything. It's all coming from Athens, Georgia. It's so bright that you probably need to put some sun on to watch the future here. And anybody that wants to get around and talk about what we don't have, go ahead and do it. Talk about it all you want to, and you get laryngitis with it. Get sick at your stomach worrying about what we got. You got to worry about. But I'm going to tell you this: if anybody in the world, including Putin, anybody wanted to change jobs, the job they'd want is Kirby Smart's right now, because it's getting ready to rock. I'm talking about Chuck Berry. It's going to rock here from now on, and that's about my final statement.
And before we get to follow-ups, let me break some news here. Robert Beal returning to Georgia. Just put on Instagram. Yeah. Robert Beal.
Good for Robert. There's another guy. I mean, could have, he's really had a hard time breaking the lineup because of the people in front of him. I mean, you look at the guys around the country, Cox, Jalen, the Johnson guy at Florida State who had a big year. These guys were ahead of him, not to mention the guys on our team that really, Anderson and Smith. It's just a lot of good players out there. But Bill and Poole will help our team next year because of the depth they'll provide. So that's, you talk about the stars and all, but you need guys that step in and do the job. And then Brady, I give Brady a lot of credit all year. I mean, he's probably going to go to, out west, Arkansas or Texas or someplace like that where he knows some coaches. But, hey, more power to him. He's played here for 4 or 5 years and hadn't had a chance to play much. And handwriting's on the wall for the future. Hey, he's been a good dog. Give him a national championship ring. Let him go. Speed, been a great guy. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have played the role, but move on. Fido, forget it and drive on. Let's go.
I think you nailed it there. Just big that he's coming back. I think you'll have the Hayfield Charter secondary coach with William Poole coming back and Chris Smith. So you got both those guys. Nolan Smith is coming back. Of course, Jalen Carter, Keely Ringo will be there. And I just want to touch on something.
Tyke Smith, too.
Got Tyke Smith, yeah. So, yeah, we got 3 Smiths in the defense. So that's going to be fun to watch. And, of course, Arian Smith on offense. So it should be like you said, there's a lot coming back. I know a lot of – and I tried to mention this in my 3-2-1 column before the last game. I said, look, win or lose, you're going to have coaching changes. You're going to have player changes. You're going to guys are going to go to the NFL. Guys are going to transfer. It happens. It's happening to every team. But when you win, it feels a lot better. When you lose, it feels like, oh, no, we're losing to everybody. It just feels like death blow after death blow. But I want to touch on what you said before we get to Dayne's thoughts on the game. Somebody asked me, I did radio, and they said, what will be your final takeaway image from this thing? What will be the one image that pokes out in your mind? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I thought about it, and I'm like, the play that stands out to me the most is William Poole knocking the ball down on 3rd and 12. Georgia just scored. Alabama gets the ball back. They need a drive. They get into third and long. And it's William Poole who was just absolutely vilified. People said after the SEC championship game, take away his scholarship and just gave him all sorts of crap. And I'm like, hey, he wasn't the only guy that had a bad game that game, but he came back and started against the number 2 Michigan Wolverines, had a great game. He started against the number 1 Alabama Crimson Tide, had a great game. And he's coming back next year. I'm excited for him. But you think of Jalen Carter's block. You think of the block kick there. Marcus Roseby-Jack Saint throws a block to score Brock Bowers. James Cook lays his body on the line on that 40-yard touchdown pass to A.D. Mitchell. You just start going through the roster. Jamari Sawyer moves inside. You got freshmen all over the place. Just when you said team victory, Coach, a lot of people go, "Oh, well, that's what coaches are supposed to say." I'm like, no, damn it, this is seriously. Every guy had one huge play. James Cook or Zamir White, you hear the entire stadium going Zeus. Some of the runs he broke off there. Just it's not lip service, but it's legitimately top to bottom was a team win. And I thought that was, I won't say that'll be the one thing I take away from it, but after it was over, you saw those guys hugging each other, and you saw the guys that you didn't expect to see each other. I saw Big Julian Rochester hugging trainers, and just tears in his eyes. It wasn't just him and his defensive line buddies. I mean, it was a top to bottom program win. Hell,
well, I did see a lot of people congratulating Julian Rochester. A lot of people said Julian Rochester was celebrating his 2nd national championship at Georgia. So congratulations to him.
He's been here since Herschel.
Yeah.
But, I want to just bring out one other thing that you mentioned about William Poole. Because, we weren't doing anything on these shows and everything, I spent a little more time over there watching practice before they left. And because I never want to look like I'm trying to talk about what I know on the show because it's not fair. But the one thing that came out that was really vivid to me was talking to Muschamp, Lanning, and Kirby was that, hey, William Poole, watch him. Watch that tape. He really played okay against Alabama. The guy just threw the ball perfectly so many times, like the touchdown pass to Messi in the corner. I mean, it was one step. I mean, you can't cover guys cold all the time. You see that in pro, but he said he was in position most of the time, but he just made a couple mental errors that, people make. But I'm really encouraged. I'm not talking quote each one, but they're really encouraged. And that's part of the coaching part that everybody misses here. All we see is what the games and all, but right. When the coach with that kind of background, those 3 guys say that, hey, we feel good about him, then it was pretty obvious that if they didn't, they would have made a change because that's what hurt us, but they didn't feel like that. Where they did change was they came out with some heavy pressure. I mean, it was evident that they were going to attack the middle of their front, working on the center and getting a lot of different people. We don't usually see Carter lined up on the center. He jumped off one side one times, but just pounded that guy and really got a lot of pressure throughout the game. And so I just think hopefully we can go on, let Dayne say anything else he wants to, but I'm looking forward to next year. I mean, I just feel like we got a quarterback here that hasn't lost to anybody on our schedule in the last 2 years but one team. So he's going against that same – I mean, look, hey, if he doesn't win the job, somebody else will be pretty damn good to beat him out. That's for sure. And I'm telling you right now, I'm fired up about Brock Vandergriff. I think Beck's made a lot of improvement. I haven't seen Stockton, but I like what we got in quarterback. And I think it's so ridiculous to just go over what happened in the past and what we've lost and all that. Everybody can be critiqued in any job or profession, but if you worry about that, you need to just look yourself in the mirror. There's nothing we can do about it. Nothing we can do about Fields, East, and all those guys. I mean, but I feel good about where we are on offense, especially that offensive line we got coming up. And we're going to be what's the day? January 17th?
18th.
Okay, I missed it. Yesterday was 17th. But I just know that most days end in Y, and I go to the next one. So I'm just going to say on Tuesday, January the 18th, our offensive line next year is going to be on the Burma Road. We're going to be like those elephants going over the Alps. We're going to be on the Burma Road here, hammer and tong guys that can just knock your ass into submission and pass block and do everything else. And Brock Bowers, Darnell Washington, Eric Gilbert, whatever how you want to pronounce it. I mean, come on, man. And then
Mr. Gilbert, just Mr.
I like hey, coming in the next year, Mitchell. I mean, what a year he had, and then Rosemead's going to be good. We don't know what's going to happen with Burton, but Kieras, I mean, hopefully Blaylock finally will get back in there, but we're going to be really good there, and recruiting is fantastic. I mean, they're working on 2023 guys now. I mean, it's just and everybody say, well, let the glass is half full, half empty. Let's find out what's wrong. They'll do some self-evaluations and all that. We definitely need to stop making the mental errors that we make. I mean, that's the only way anybody plays with. We got to cut those back. But just tell me who in the country as a football coach would want to change jobs and wouldn't want to have the job Kirby Smart's got right now. I mean, I'm talking about maybe Nick wouldn't, but Nick's got a burr up his saddle right now. I can tell you that, and I'm glad he has. I mean, old Kirby took him up the mountaintop there.
I said at the beginning of the year that I think to win a championship, you have to have that transcendent superstar quarterback. And at the beginning of the year, I didn't think that Georgia had that. After watching the two playoff games, here's what I realized. The piece of that I was wrong, it's not just quarterback. You have to have transcendently good play from multiple areas. And for Georgia, Coach, I was sitting beside you on that watch-along show. When Jalen Carter blocks that kick, changed everything. Like, that changed the momentum of the game. He is the best player on the football team, and right there beside him, Nakobe Dean. And Roddy, you were talking about the image that stands out in your mind. To me, it's Channing Tindall missing an assignment in the red zone, Nakobe Dean covering for him to force an incompletion, and then getting in his face saying, we cannot make that happen. And to me, that's the accountability and the leadership on the team that gets you to this point. Full circle about quarterback. Georgia does have one of those superstars. Stetson Bennett wasn't that at the beginning of the season. He wasn't that in 2020. He wasn't that in previous Alabama games. But like now, this guy just went 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in 2 playoff games to get a national championship. The fourth quarter, 4 for 4, 83 yards. You can tack on 30 more for pass interference penalties. It was after the fumble, it was perfect. Now, a lot of that was because it was a balanced offensive attack. Georgia's offensive line really stepped up. Broderick Jones, coach, good Lord. I mean, the whole tenor of the game changed when he started using his athleticism to push people off the ball. He did. So when I look at it, and I say, you talk about who would want the spot that Kirby Smart has. Well, how many other quarterbacks would you choose in the SEC over Stetson Bennett right now? Probably the Heisman Trophy winner and Bryce Young. And then somebody
told me, said one day, who in the conference would Stetson Bennett start for these other teams? Who cares? I mean, your team is your team, but you make some great points there, and it's just the fact too that our quarterback was an MVP in the championship game and the game against Michigan. So it's just a shallow point right now. I mean, you just gotta, anybody that's been on that other tangent, you gotta believe that the same reason that Kirby played William Poole, he played Stetson Bennett. He goes out to practice every day. He sees that, and I would have to say, based on 90-some thousand people that were there cheering for him, they finally think Kirby knows what he's doing for at least for one more month.
For a month. But no, you're right, and it's I don't know that and I don't say I've defended Stetson. I haven't. All I've ever asked for the whole Stetson JT Daniels debate is to you compare apples to apples. If you want to compare the fact that one's undefeated, the other one has 2 losses. If you're only going to compare victories to someone's losses, it's like, well, beating Missouri is not the same as facing Alabama. So, put them on the same plane and then make your choice. And my point has been the entire time is like, I don't know enough about what happens in practice. And I know more than most. What the hell's going on in practice to second guess not only Kirby, but Todd Monken, Buster Faulkner, everybody else in that offensive staff, all the assistants, all the analysts, all the other coaches. There are people in there. I mean, who the hell am I to override Dell McGee? Because if Dell's got a problem with the quarterback, I'm sure he's going to tell Kirby. And if Kirby says go to hell, then I guess Kirby's is his ball. I don't know enough what's going on, so that's always been my point. It's like I know what people say. Well, we see what we see in the games. Okay, well, if we went by what we see in the games and not what happens in practice, William Poole would never been out on that field again. Because again, my small understanding, Coach, like you said, is it looked to me like he got torched in that SEC championship game, but the coaches go in and say, no, that was just great throws. I mean, you just can't – there's nothing you can do in that situation. Okay, so the coaches made their decisions, and they roll with them, and they'll be successful or not. And I think it's we spend – as a fan base, as analysts, as pundits, we spend a lot of time second guessing them with a tithe of the information. But we figure our opinions are the same as theirs. But anyway, I don't want to get off into that so much.
Yeah, I do want to say this, though. We need to really thank 2 guys on Alabama's team for dropping those passes, too. I mean, if 84 catches either one of those balls, it's a different game. If that tight end, when they were getting on, Nakobe was getting on, he should have caught that ball across the middle there. So it's a different game. But that's the deal. That's part of it. If the guy would have dropped it in the national championship game 4 years ago, we win. So, I mean, that's just it's payback. It's the way things happen. But it gets back to some of this stuff about, hey, coach, give us some philosophy, all that stuff. Hey, a lot of games are lost a lot more than they're won there. So there were some huge mistakes on both teams' part that added to the drama of the game. I mean, we see the same thing in every pro game I watch. I mean, and my last thing on the Stetson Bennett thing today would be Tom Brady, 263rd draft choice, gets a chance to play for Drew Bledsoe, and 21 years later, he's still playing. So Stetson Bennett, a walk-on player that had been around everywhere and played at Jones Junior College, gets a chance, not only once, but twice, to come in and has done exactly what he needed to do, and the rest is history.
That's a good point. We had a good story at UGASports.com. You need to go check out. Jed May has a great behind-the-scenes look. He spoke. We spoke with Denise Bennett, Stetson Bennett's mom. It's a very, very insightful piece. Jed did a great job with it, and I don't care what else you read today or tomorrow or the next day. You need to go read that story by Jed May at UGASports.com because it is fantastic. Get a chance to check it out.
Let me tease a bit of that in there because there's a piece of the story that I think says a ton about Georgia coaches. Because to me, like, if you think you know everything and are right all the time, then eventually you're going to be wrong in a big way. And Todd Monken said this before the national championship and his media appearance too. But the piece in there where Jed writes about that Todd Monken and Georgia's offensive coaches had pretty much told Stetson Bennett, we don't see your path to play here this year. And of course, that's going to be hard to hear at his age and where he's at and how much he loves the game.
You talking about before the season or now?
I'm talking about before. I'm talking about
Good
before
Lord.
the season.
I'm glad you're talking about that.
No. Now, like, it gets to the national championship and it gets to the CFP, and Todd Monken is saying, I have no doubt that we can win a championship with Stetson Bennett, and I underestimated him. To me, that shows you a lot about Todd Monken for him to admit publicly, I did not read this guy's potential correctly, and he has surpassed everything I thought he could do. And then it worked out that Georgia wins a title with him. I think it's a really good trait in a coach.
It really is, and you got to look at his MO. The guy had never seen Stetson. He hadn't been here to watch him. We didn't get to practice because COVID took us out. He brings in a guy from Wake Forest and the other guy that from Southern Cal, and they're working the heck out of him. So the only thing he sees the guy do is drills there for like 4 or 5 weeks. So he still doesn't know. And then finally he plays him. And then going into this year, he's looking at we had a pretty good successful at the end of the year with JT. So, and he's got Beck who can do the same stuff. So that's his plan. We're going to go with these guys. And then JT gets hurt, and then Beck doesn't do it in practice. And then again, Stetson takes it over. That's the deal. That's my final answer. That's what happened. It's what happened, people. I promise you. And Todd Monken admitted it. And I had the same thing. I went into Oklahoma. I had got that I had my eyes on. I didn't realize some of these guys could play. And the first year here, I watched some of the tape. I didn't know these kids. There were some guys I've played that I shouldn't have. And in the second year, we made those changes. And I told Troy Aikman, a #1 draft choice, college football Hall of Famer, pro football Hall of Famer, 3-time Super Bowl champion, you need to transfer, son. You can't play here in this system. You broke your leg. We've already got a guy running the wishbone again. We're not going back to this. We're not going to do it. We're fair to you. He understood that. So it happens. I mean, I don't know how it can be more vivid. It happens to great players. They have to sometimes reality doesn't. I mean, the way things happen and the way things break out, that's what happened to JT. He got hurt.
Yeah.
So, hey, that's it.
I hate it for JT. I was glad to see he and Stetson back each other up. And, it's an awkward situation when two guys are fighting for the same job. I'm sure everybody in whatever business they're in, you have a competitor that, you sometimes feel that their success is to your detriment. But when you're on a team, you know that their success is good for you overall. So I saw we went through the national championship parade thing. The two guys who went through the dog walk kind of together were signing autographs, and people were just cheering for them were JT Daniels and Stetson Bennett. Now, I expect JT Daniels, I broke the news yesterday that I expect him to go into the portal. I expect him to take off. But, Coach, we still haven't heard word yet on Stetson. We spoke to Stetson Bennett's mom. She said he's going to think about it. He's going to think about it. He's going to think about it. Because
the only thing I would say about Stetson is, I've talked to him prior to the game. I haven't seen him, I've talked to him a little bit after the game, but he wants to play here. All he needs is somebody to just tell him that, which I'm sure Kirby Monken, that, hey, we're going to start out a lot different as far as this job than we have the last 2 times. And as long as he's got that assurance, I'm sure. I can't put words in his mouth, but I feel like that that Ivory soap commercial, 99 and 44, 100%.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I would say that's pretty much what it is. And I would hope that everybody that listens to this would be excited about that. Why wouldn't you? I mean, you got a national championship quarterback that's only lost 1 game, and to the teams that you're playing this year in 2 years. You also, but that's not my role here. I can't get involved.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, to me, it seems like you have a guy like that. He hasn't said he's coming back, but that's my interpretation. I thought he would, especially when he went through that dog walk, and just it was.
He wants to play his last year, and that's. Excuse me for interrupting, but forget about Georgia or anything. Every kid that's had this benefit of the COVID thing or the extra year, 22 of them at Illinois did it this year, 17 at Wake Forest. They got another chance to play college football, knowing that they're probably not going to play pro or anything else, and they love it. It's a chance to play your last year, and I'm happy for these kids because so many of them don't ever get a shot till their last time. Whether it's Poole or Breeny or Speed or some of these guys, Schaefer coming back like he did, He's helped himself in the pros.
Devontae Wyatt too.
That's a little hokey about it, but what's wrong with a guy wanting to play another year?
You're right, because that's what I was going to say. Is I know for a fact that Stetson Bennett does want to play football next year. A lot of people say, well, he should just retire, go out on top. I'm like, agree or disagree. I'm just telling you what the kid has said. He said, I'm going to play football somewhere next year. Now, I think it's at Georgia, and I think he would that's where he wants to. And remember, this is a guy who had opportunities before coming to UGA. He could have gone to scholarship somewhere else. He came to UGA. He did 1 year here, then went to Jones to prove he could do it. Had other scholarship opportunities. He almost went and played for Billy Napier at University of Louisiana. Loved the offense, loved the offensive scheme there. DJ Looney, who had been at Georgia the year previously, was like, hey, coach, I got a great quarterback for you. I've seen what this kid could do. They almost get him to University of Louisiana. He's about to sign. Again, this isn't the story Jed May did. And Kirby Smart called, said, we need you. He comes back. This is a guy who loves UGA. He bleeds for it. And when he broke down crying, a lot of people was like, oh, the pressure's off his back. I'm like, maybe. But also, he's winning. He's winning at his own. He understands how big this is. So now he gets to come back without all the pressure of 41 years on him, you know. And when he went to that dog walk, coach, it was like a hero's welcome. Who wouldn't want to do that again?
Yeah, and the other thing is, some people say, boy, he could just ride out in the sunset and always be a legacy here and not have to worry about, coming back and things not going right. I mean, who in the world as a player would ever worry about if you want to play, if you can do it again? I mean, I just don't see – I think that'd be the easy way out for somebody that doesn't have the competitiveness that Stetson had. I mean, that's a real challenge to him just to come do it again, because every challenge he's had, he's met. And he probably would say, hey, you think I can't do it again? I'm going to do it again. You know what I mean? So I don't really look at it like he would say that. I just, anybody that wants him to do that just doesn't want him here, and probably should go cheer for another team, really, I think, if you don't want this guy playing for us.
Well, even a step beyond that, I think Georgia really needs him, because you start looking at the inexperience that will be put in key positions. I mean, the defense losing, 9 starters and then some key reserves that rotate in. And then on offense, I mean, do you want someone that hasn't got everyone lined up, have that reservoir of knowledge? I mean, you just saw Alabama's offense completely drop off when 2 of the experienced receivers went out of the game, and they didn't have the experience on that stage. Now, Alabama's going to be better next year too, but Stetson Bennett's leadership and his ability to get guys where they need to be, that's going to be clutch for Georgia next year. And if that's not there for Georgia, then it's going to be infinitely harder to get back in the same position.
I'm with you there. Look, even if let's say that they have the competition and he doesn't win the job, it's very possible. I want a guy on the sideline telling Brock Vandagriff what to do, or Gunnar, or Gunnar Stockton, or Carson Beck, saying, "Hey, here's what they're doing. Here's how they're tricking you. Here's what they're doing with those safeties. Here's what this. Watch this guy's hips. I want that guy on the sideline, even if he's not playing. I want him there. But what you folks to do when you get a chance, I want you to swing by our friends at Athens Ford. They've been a huge sponsor for this. I know Brian Clower, the head man out there, was absolutely ecstatic with this win. This Athens Ford team supports the Georgia Bulldogs. They also support the Athens community. They do a fantastic job with that. And I went out there before. We actually drove to Indianapolis. The flights were a bit much, and we were taking a lot of people. And plus, I've got a fantastic Ford Explorer that I bought out there. But I went out beforehand to get the oil changed, get everything checked out. And I was in that service area actually working. It was a great area, fantastic Wi-Fi, immaculately clean. They do a great job on the car. They do a great job on service. And I'm telling you, I spent half the time out there just drooling over the Ford Bronco in the showroom. So when you get a chance, swing out there, have some coffee, have some Starbucks, have some a great place to work, have some of the snacks they have out there, and get fantastic service quickly, very inexpensively, and very thoroughly done. So check our friends at Athens Ford, who are huge supporters of the program. And also want to mention our friends out at Dead Soxy. Now, I remember before the season started, I told people Dead Soxy came on as a sponsor. They sent us some socks. They asked us, hey, will you try these? Sure, we'll try anything for free. I got no morals or scruples, and I have no pride. But they sent us some socks. I'm like, damn, these are great. And they said, we've sponsored some of the other rival sites. We'd like to sponsor yours. And I'm like, okay. And I got them. And I said, these are lucky socks. I could tell right off the bat. We started wearing the dead Soxy socks with their True Stay technology, i.e. the ones you pull up and they don't slip back down. It is actually that True Stay is a characteristic of these socks. The two Ole Miss guys engineered them, and they're fantastic socks. They're Georgia themed. They're red and black. You can get silver ones. I have to reach out to Jason out there and see if they can come up with a 1980 to 2021 sock, just a national championship commemorative sock. And they probably will. But when you get a chance, check out the Dead Soxy socks. I said they were lucky, and Georgia has a national title. Coincidence? I don't think so. So anyway, when you get a chance, check them out. DeadSoxy.com. We'd appreciate it, and it mean a lot to those guys too.
Let's get some questions in here. I think we're going to finish with kind of projecting forward for Georgia. Coaching changes will happen. One of those already, Georgia down a wide receivers coach with Cortez Hankton going to LSU. So I'll just send it to you, Coach, on what do you kind of look forward in that position?
Well, we're actually down 2 coaches. We lost Dan Lanning, who really did a terrific job showing his loyalty to Georgia, the job he did the last 2 games, just night and day working 2 jobs, got good results for sure. You don't want to change your play caller for the championship. And he was able to do a good job of that. And then, Hankton has been so good in the community with Dogs for Pups, everything about him. He's just a classy guy. And he's going home. He's from Louisiana. You can't blame him. It's going to be a tough rebuild down there. But at the same time, more power to him. I think he'll do a good job. So as far as the receiver job, there's always a lot of different things to look for. But I think, number one, you got to get somebody who can blend in with Coach Monken. I mean, I'm sure Kirby will make the ultimate call, but Coach Monken's got a lot of contacts, and he wants somebody that can come in here and jump right in and help his system. I don't see a situation where even though he's very, very good at coaching quarterbacks, I just don't see Buster moving up because of the recruiting situation. You're just going to hire another guy in there. I mean, if people bring up Hines Ward, that's the same thing with him. He hasn't had a lot of experience with recruiting, but he could be somebody that you look at, and Terrence Edwards too. But I look for him to bring either a guy with pro experience that has coached in college that can recruit, or a high level recruiter that can adapt to our system. And then the same thing's true on the Lanning situation. I look for him to bring in a big time young coach to help the recruiting and coach the outside linebackers.
Well, hey, Kirby Smart said it himself. I thought it was fantastic after the I think was it after the Florida game? But he basically said, look, you can't out-coach bad recruiting. And not bad recruiting, but he basically – and I thought it was a great insight into his philosophy. And you'll notice, last night he was at a basketball game. This past Saturday, what did he do with the national championship? He could have reveled in the championship ceremony. He had a junior day lined up to go with it. So it's like, hey, you guys are coming in. Why don't you guys sit down in this reserved seating for the recruits and watch our national ceremony? And I know, Coach, you were there with some of the other former coaches. I noticed that Kirby couldn't join you guys when you sent out a picture, because where was Kirby Smart? In the locker room recruiting. So that's
where he needs to be. He's not worried about any picture, but it was good to see all those coaches up there and talk to them.
Tell us about that, because that's fantastic. That just
it was just to see all the people out there. But I remember when we came up with the idea, and maybe some other people were doing it, but back in the early 90s here, we'd had a junior day, and we had it for a basketball game when we were playing Florida, and we had all those guys down in the end zone where we would sit them. Then they've got a different configuration there in basketball now where the recruits can sit, but there were a lot of them, and I was down there, and the AD from Florida came by. Remind me what his name is. Foley. Jeremy Foley walked by and he says, Coach, how's it going? And I said, good. He said, I thought you'd be on a Nike trip. And I said, yeah, I'm going tomorrow. But I got some juniors in here recruiting that we're going after. And he looked up there. He said, what are you talking about? I said, well, we got juniors for next year. He said, really? So that's a pretty good idea. And among those juniors were some pretty good players, Stinchcomb, Terrence Edwards, Boss Bailey, some of those guys, which probably would have gotten them. But the point is, you got to continually work on them, and that's what you do. I mean, you finish 1 year and go out. And I thought it was great that Kirby made that mention of the families too when he was talking about, the contributors to the program. But the last 2 years have been really good for football coaches, and the fact that they couldn't go on the road and have more time with their families. I mean, that'll be invaluable to them from now on, and maybe hopefully they'll understand that, you don't have to necessarily spend quite that much time recruiting. Maybe you can spend a little more time going to see your own son's game or your own daughter's, dance recital or something like that. Just find out a way to do a little bit more of that. But Kirby never stops on recruiting, and he's really fantastic at it.
Question here from Chuck Ward, and there's a few questions that we'll just kind of broaden this. He says, Coach, does Warren McClendon move inside to make room for Amarius Mims at tackle? You're saying earlier, you said January 18th. I'm telling you this, Burma Road offensive line next year. I know it's too early to really tell. What we got to do is
get the best five on the field. And everybody remembers that Ratledge was already a starter there, and he's had good rehab. He had, a tough injury, but we can see some movement. We got to find the left guard, and Broderick's pretty safe at left tackle, but Mims can move around a little bit. McClendon is not the typical forceful guy that you want at guard. He's just a really good workman-like, very good. So I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but you got to find a way to get Mims on the field. I mean, he's just too good. If he doesn't, I can see his ass portal because why wouldn't but he's going to be on it. I'm talking about if he does. I probably didn't mean it like that, but if he can't play for us, we're pretty damn good.
Very true.
This question from W. Larry Hogue Jr. over on Facebook. What's your opinion of Georgia's greatest needs from the transfer portal? Yeah,
I could see us getting against corner again. Just we just can't rely on these young guys to step in. Keeley had a year and a half in the program. We've got Green now, who's had that. Kimber has left. I like the kid Bullard and as a safety, and then the other kid from Alabama. What's his name? Good corner that he's going to help us too. He did a good job with the scout team and working with special teams some. But I think that may be you might look at an inside linebacker just from experience standpoint. And you always, if you ET that could, be a force, you look at that on defense. Offense, I really don't know where you'd go. Maybe a wide receiver if he's just a wild guy.
Maybe a wide out, a punter.
Well, we got a punter coming in here, don't we? That guy from Australia.
I know. I just want a second one because just in case. That's a lot to put on.
I don't think
you followed up the best punter in Georgia history.
You can't give a scholarship to another punter, though. I mean, we could do it in a transfer portal after spring. If this guy comes in here and he ain't speak English, from Australia, as far as his punting ability, it's a little bit different when you got showing you, man, instead of doing the test out there with the kangaroos chasing the ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does, but he certainly got a good leg.
Hey, I do want to mention before we get to the next question there, if you hang on a second, Dayne, our friends over at Your Pie, I know one person who's probably still can't talk right now is Drew French. He texted me after the game. He was so excited. Drew and Natalie French, Georgia alums, Georgia supporters. They run the Your Pie empire, if you will. So be sure if you are looking for something to eat, if you want a great pizza, you want a great salad, you want a great sandwich, you want the fantastic hot pepperoni, honey pepperoni pizza, try it. Hit up our friends at Your Pie. Do it today. Today's a Tuesday. Use the app. If you use the app, you get double points, and those points end up fast. I know a lot of people kind of roll their eyes at loyalty programs or stuff like that, or punch cards. Use the app on your phone. It's the easiest way to order from Your Pie. But also, if you do it on Tuesday, you get double points. Those points add up so quickly. You will be getting free food before you can blink. It's incredibly generous, the levels they have on that. So do it on Tuesday when your points count twice as much. It's double points Tuesday, so jump on that. And I also want to mention our friends at Academia Brewing Company. I actually ate out there the other day twice on the same day. It was Friday. I did not realize my sister-in-law was coming into town. I forgot my sister-in-law was coming into town. And, of course, where did she want to go? She wanted to go to Academia. So my wife and my son met her and her daughter out there for dinner. But earlier in the week, somebody who was leaving the program, had some great insight into the program, agreed to meet with me for lunch and give me some inside skinny on the season as it was. And I kid. It was just somebody I wanted to meet. And he said, where do you want to go to eat? And I said, well, let's go to Academia. So I wound up going to Academia twice on the same day. And I will tell you, it was fantastic. It was great food both times, great beer. And they've got their Skull out there and their Aphrodisiac, two of the best beers they've ever created. The place is growing by leaps and bounds. And I ran into Matt Casey, the owner of Academia, twice in Indianapolis. He was in seventh heaven. So if you get a chance, reach out to Matt Casey. Tell him congrats. He'll be thrilled. He'll talk football with you for hours, but also give you some great beer, some great food. So hit up our friends at Academia Brewing Company and swing by Your Pie when you get a chance.
Coach, when you look at the players that Georgia has had that have already entered the transfer portal, I think it's hard not to notice that there's a lot of reserved and experienced defensive backs there. And I've heard Kirby Smart say, I think it was around signing day, that it's harder than ever to get really good defensive backs because there's so much passing that a lot of the players that would play that position end up playing wide receiver at some point. Have you seen the sport kind of shift in how you build defensive back talent? Because Georgia seems to be that's an area where they're really having to supplement quite frequently.
Yeah, I mean, it hurt us because we had so many good ones 2 years ago. We lost 5 to the draft. I mean, that it's obvious we could analyze and train them because those guys all have played significant roles in pro football this year. One guy didn't make it, the kid from the junior college that played some here, but he didn't. I don't know if he picked up a team, but the other 4 made it. And then you had 2 transfer that were really doing well at other schools. The one kid got hurt again at LSU, and the other kid played for Tyson or played at Miami.
Stevenson.
Yeah, Stevenson. So here's the deal. I mean, you got Kirby, you got Muschamp, you got Adai. I mean, these guys can evaluate. They know what they want back there, and I think this class, if anybody that has any significant ability to analyze defensive backs, watch the tape on these guys we got coming in. I mean, these guys are really good players now. I mean, a lot of teams wanted them, and I think they'll be very, very evident in playing pretty early, particularly the ones that could come in and get the advantage of spring and all that. So that helps too. And then the edge guys we got. I mean, I showed Roddy the picture of me talking to
Marvin Jones Jr. and
Michael Williams. I mean, they look better on the hoof than anybody we got playing defensive end. As far as hoof, now playing, I don't know, but they scary looking, really scary looking. I mean,
hey, from an old photographer standpoint,
I would like to walk in someplace and people recognize me and ask me, "Are these your bodyguards?"
I was going to say, I can tell you as a photographer for many years, do not stand between 2 guys that tall that look that good I mean, you're taller than I am, Coach, but you look like a midget. I mean, those guys just soared over you. I'm like, oh my God, those are high school seniors. They're not even. I guess they're freshmen now at UGA. But the point being, those were. And again, it took me back. It literally took me back to. I remember doing a photo shoot of Richard Seymour, and who's the guy that played with it? Stroud, side by side. I did that, and just trying. I remember trying to get close enough to get good shots to their face, but wide back far enough to get their entire bodies into it, and it was just. From a photographer standpoint, I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. We were doing it for Bulldog Magazine back in the day. And,
that's a good point.
And I'm like, but again, Twin Towers and those two guys coming in. So you get Robert Beal back there who can help out, and kind of educate them up.
But remember this: when I first started doing this, like 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and I'm riding into the sunset here pretty soon. But here's the point: I said, watch out for Channing Tindall and this 99 Jordan Davis coming in here. I was around those guys when they were watching our team get ready for the bowl game. And I like their not so much how they look, which they were overwhelming, but I like their demeanor. I like the fact that they would interact with me and talk to an old coach that was just trying to encourage them that, hey, you're going to have a really good shot here. Everything's ahead of us in Georgia. Blah, 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 and all that. Fast forward that to 4 years later, these two guys I talked to that day when they were in here for the official visit, among some others. But I can say from a just experience standpoint, personality-wise, the gleam in their eye, not to mention their ability, these two guys have got the IT. They've got the it. Because they are ready to rock. I mean, these guys right here, fire me up. And the other two that fire me up are those two linebackers. The one from Salisbury, and the one
Jalen Walker,
and the one from Chubb School up there,
Washington.
Same idea there. This kid from North Carolina, he looked me up because his dad. High school coach played with me. He said, Coach, you coached, you played with Coach Story and all that. And then his dad came over and took a picture with me. I'm not trying to recruit the guy. He's here, but his dad walked all the way across and said, Coach, I want to get this picture and send it back to Coach Story. Now, you don't do that stuff unless you got class.
Jalen Walker he's a fan favorite right off the bat.
And also the kid from Chubb School, he wanted to put they couldn't let him practice that day. He was coming in 3 days, but he was out there acting like going through the drill, hitting the form, and he just standing there. And I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm just getting ready for Wednesday, Coach. I'm going to be out here. So, you like stuff like it. And I hope people on the event like to hear this because those are 4 stallions. Those are 4 Kentucky Derby racing horses coming in here on our defense that are going to be really good. I'm talking about really, really good.
I want to add one more to that list, Coach. Just a kid who, when you look at him, you get that kind of feeling that this kid's going to be special. Dayne Everett. All the early enrollees were on a truck bed, so they got to be in the parade. It was kind of nice. It's like, hey, you signed early, you get to be in the parade. People were cheering. People knew who they were. So they were at the tail end of the procession, not the parade. And people were calling out to them. And they're like, hey, Bear, and Bear's waving to them, Scruggs waving to people,
That's awesome.
Oscar Delp and Gunner were waving to people, and people wanted their autographs, stuff like that. But I tell you, that guy that just kind of looking at him, I'm like, if you've ever been to a pier and you look over the side, you see a shark in the water, that's Dayne Everett. I'm just telling you.
Who else was there? Even beyond the new guys? Eric Gilbert.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was there.
And I'm just saying, if that guy,
our man Roddy broke that before he was even on the float. You said that he was back, and
I said he was back.
You lucked into it. Hey, you lucked into that one again.
I tell you got to have those 2-hour lunches out at academia, and you learn stuff.
I like to. I mean, if I can ever get in, can't remember my password half the time, but once in a while I read. And you break some stuff that's pretty good there. I hope the fans like it, but I'm not going to tell you break much. But I don't even watch it.
You
Here's
don't
the
even remember the
point.
name of my report, so hush.
Here's the point right now. For me, is let's just get going there. We put this one to rest, and let's get the next one.
Yeah.
Greg Hendrick says, I want to thank you, Coach, and I hope you've taken time to pat yourself on the back because you and Coach Richt laid the path to winning this championship.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure Coach Rick did a lot more than I did, and then Coach Goff did a lot too. Only thing I tried to do was enhance the personnel here and try to develop them within the framework of what we had going there. Being on probation is always hard to get the numbers up, but we were able to get that pretty quickly. So, but I just would have liked to have a chance to finish what it started. But those things happen. I mean, you got to. I'm not. That's the past. I can't worry about it. I appreciate the guy. Who was that? I appreciate him mentioning that. But people ask me, how can you pull for Georgia and be around here and do all that stuff? I mean, why wouldn't I? I mean, I had one guy that shot me out, but a lot of people back me. And hey, I've always tried to be as straightforward as I could. And once Kirby took over, it was even easier because they had a little more access. But I think it's good that all the coaches in any program, I talked to Mike Bellotti out there at Oregon and about Dan Lanning before he was hired, because I know Mike has a voice there, and he's really excited about Dan because coming from somebody that he knows, it's a little easier than somebody on a committee or something or a search agent or something like that. I mean, he was glad to hear it. So I think that's what you got to do as coaches. Talk to your, help. There's alumni here that help me. There's people that help me with jobs. There's a lot of stuff that we do behind the scenes try to help. But the biggest thing that I try to do is just stay out of the way, and they make sure to tell me, "Hey, don't do these things," and I stay out of the way. But
please, but Coach, I think there's a lot of sentiment out there that when they saw the picture of you and Goff and Dooley, and Mark Richt, a lot of people just felt good. It's like, look, these guys could go anywhere, and that there's only one of two futures for any head coach: retire or be fired. Get hired away somewhere else. It's you leave the job. It's not a whole lot. It doesn't usually end in someone walking off into the sunset. So they either get hired away, they get fired, or they retire. And for all you guys to be here in town, be here in Athens, and every one of you rooting for the Dogs, pulling for them, helping out. I know that Kirby could reach out to any one of you, and you'd be there in a minute. You talk Kirby. Kirby wins the title. You have to feel good as a mentor, for that. And I just want to say on behalf of everybody, we thank you for what you did. We thank you for your
appreciate
help. It means a lot. So I know you always.
And hey, I blame you for being at the game. They told me that because I was media, I couldn't go.
This is my yes,
with the
my
team
fault.
and everything. That's ridiculous, but it's okay. I wanted to be there, and I would enjoy being around Kirby at the end of the game, but not to the point where it didn't bother me that much. I do feel like anybody's got almost 60,000 people watch a watch-along show. I got to think we're bringing a little bit to the program. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable, Dayne. Or is that a misprint or what?
It wasn't.
Facebook and everything.
Yeah, it was a little over 60,000, all channels involved, and I can't thank the people enough. Subscribe to our channels to make that happen. But, Roddy, I do need to even mention this, too. It was so cool to be able to share that moment with Coach. I know he wanted to be in Indianapolis and be part of that. But I as a storyteller, got to see the mentor witness the mentee reach the mountaintop. And then on the same day, Champ Bailey gets announced as a college football Hall of Famer.
That was awesome. That was awesome. And people said, hey, you didn't look too excited and everything when those things happen. I mean, I'm not going to jump up and act like some of these people on these videos, which is good, but I was very proud. That was number one thing. I was very proud of our players, and I was so happy for Stetson in particular that you and I had said on a break there that after that fumble, I mean, of all the things that could have happened right there, it just looked like we were trending back the other way. And that's what you got to be as an athlete or as a coach. You can't say, here we go again. You got to say, hey, I got to take this shot, because if I don't, it never happened to me again. I've got to do it. And I think back all the national championship or big play things that I were involved with. And we ran we ran a play on the goal line against Penn State, and I told the coach I didn't want to run it, and I still don't want to run it. It didn't work. But I also ran some plays against Penn State years later when I'm at Oklahoma that I'm glad we ran them, and we won. So it was I say 1967 to 1985. I got revenge against Joe Pa. And he said, oh, I can't believe it. Oh, yeah. He was crying after the game, but we got him.
There you go. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. We're going to have to run. We'll be back next Tuesday. Join us then. Appreciate everybody joining us early this week. We had some time constraints for
blame me. It's my fault. I have jobs and things.
I was trying not to throw you under the bus, but yeah, it's all Dayne's fault. But anyway, we should be back to our normal schedule next Tuesday. Hit us up then. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We went from, I think, 17,000 a few months ago. Now we're at 25,000. It's the fastest growing UGA website out there, UGA channel out there because of the content. So you got to check it out. So anyway, we'll see you next week. Everybody take care.